Hello, this is the Blonde Analyst, and I'm going to be starting a video series on SQL. First, we need to go over what is SQL, what is a database, and stuff very similar to that. So, what is a database? A database is a collection of data organized for creating, reading, updating, and deleting. And why should we use a database over something simple like a spreadsheet? A database could be used to store a lot more data. And let's say we're dealing with hundreds of thousands of pieces of information that we need to figure out how to filter out properly. It's a lot slower to be using a spreadsheet when we're dealing with algorithms and such. And for something that's frequently updated, it's a lot better to use a database over a spreadsheet. And that leads us to SQL. SQL is a language that was used in order to create, read, update, and delete data in a database. So the first thing that we're going to be going over is querying. Now, before we start on querying, let's actually look at the data that we have. So here I have an Excel sheet and we have a lot of data here. There's a lot of words going on and there's a lot of stuff, but we'll break it down. It's actually not that complicated. So this is actually basic information from all of the athletes that competed in the Olympics. So in the first column, we have something, it's an ID column. It's just numbers, just to label each person with a specific number. If it's the same person, it's a repeated number. Second column, we have their name. Third column, we have the sex, age, height, weight, the team they played on, shortened version of the team they played on, what games they played at, the year, the season, the city they were born, what sport they played, what event they played, and if they got a medal. Now, in this spreadsheet, we have two types of data. We have something called a string, which is just basically letters, or we have an int, which is an integer. Integers are just numbers. Now, surprisingly, only one of these rows or one of these columns is actually an integer, which would be the ID column. Everything else is a string. And that might seem a little confusing because we have stuff like the age, the height, and the weight that are numbers. But some of these have NA. And in NA, it just wasn't recorded. So, for that reason, these also need to be string because an NA cannot be a integer. It has to be a string. Now is when we'll start learning about SQL. So in this, I have this version of SQL, which is PostgreSQL, and I'm going to be going to my database. In this case, it's called Olympics History, and I'm going to be going to the query tool. Today, we're going to be going over basic queries. Now, let's say I want the entire database just to see if we're working with the right thing. We're going to be using something called the select. With select is just used to ask, hey, what do you want displayed as an output? So in this case, we want everything displayed from the table. So for everything, we use something very simple called the star. So select star, but from where? What database? Now we use the from. So the from is just used to what data are we going to be displaying. In this case, it is the Olympics history table. And as you can see, this is all of our data just displayed out. But let's say we don't really want that. We don't want all of our data because what's the point of that? We want to filter out some stuff. And let's say we just want the names. Let's take out this asterisk and just give me the names from the table Olympics history. In that case, filters out everything else, and we just get this enormous list of just names. Let's say we want a little bit more. Let's say we want the name and what sport they played. We would put name, then we put a comma, and we'd put the sport. Now, it displays both columns, one for name and one for sport. The next thing we'll be going over is something called a limit. Let's say we don't want all of these. We just want, let's say 10. Let's say we only want these first 10. From A. Dijon to Christine Jacoba. I'm not sure the way to pronounce the name. I'm sorry. So let's put limit 10. Now, as you can see, we only get the first 10 outputs. But let's say we want to filter out a little bit more. This is just displaying the data. We are going to be using something called the where. Now, let's say I only want that first one, something very simple. We're going to take out the sport and we're going to be using ID instead. Oops. So this is going to be displaying the ID and the name. Let's say we just want this first one. We'll use where ID is equal to 1. And as we could see, we just get this one. Let's say we want the ID where it's equal to 10. We get that one. And in this case, since the ID is an integer, we actually don't even need these because it'll give us the same answer. But we actually don't need the ID displayed to give us that same name. Let's say, as you can see, the name here is ENR for ID is equal to 10. But we don't want the ID, we just want the name. See? It works just as fine. But let's say we just want all of the other numbers besides 10. We could use a not. Not is just a negation. So we want every other person besides if their ID is 10. So let's put the ID. D. And we will get every other number besides 10. Makes it very easy, very simple. Not is just a negation. So let's put something else, something filtering out a little bit more. Let's say they ask us for all of the females. We could put where not, and then we'll put sex is equal to male. This will give us all of the females. And as we could see here, these are all females. And the order that we display these is the order that it comes out. So let's say we want the name first and then we want sex. We could put name, comma, sex. Name will come first, sex will come second. If we want the sex first, we have the sex on the left side, name on the right side. And we also obviously don't need this displayed. Let's say we want the name and age where they're not 24 years old. So we'll put the age and not 24 years old. So all of these will be every number besides 24. Very simple. Now, the next thing that we'll be going over are conditional statements. Conditional statements are things like and, or. Now, and is just used if we want two statements that are both true. Or is for either or to be true. So if we want 1 and 2 to be true, then 1 has to be true and 2 has to be true. If we have 1 or 2, then if 1 is true, it'll come in, and if 2 is true, it'll come in. Or if 1 is true by itself and 2 is false, it'll come in, and if 2 is true and 1 is false, it'll still come in. But for this one, both have to be true. If this one or both have to be true. So how are we going to use that in this case? Let's say they want people that are male and 24 years old. We would use select, and let's get the name, sex, and age from Olympics history, where sex is equal to male and age is equal to 24. As we could see, we have all males and all 24 years old. We could keep going with this actually, and let's say we only want them that are from Team China, and team equals China. Let's display the team here as well, just to show, as we could see. And we could keep going from this just to keep filtering out the data. Now let's try the or. Let's say they want the name, age, and what medal they earned from 23 or 24 year olds. So we'll go back here. We'll get the name, age, and medal from Olympics history, and they have to be either, we're going to put 23, or age is equal to 24. And as we could see, if they're 23 or 24, they come up and then it'll display their medal. And we could actually combine these conditional statements. So we could get an and as well as an or statement in the same statement. Let's say we want the 23 or 24 year olds that have gotten a gold medal before. Now we need to start using the parentheses. So after where, we're going to have an open parentheses, close parentheses, and medal is equal to gold. So reading this, we're going to get the name, age, and medal from this table, where the age is going to be 23 or the age is going to be 24, and they also have to have gotten a gold medal. So what should be displayed is a 23 or 24 year old that has a gold medal. Let's test it out. And as we could see, that's true. So that goes over some basic conditional statements. Now let's say that we want all of the information from people with the name that starts with the letter A. How would we do that? Now that's where we have something called the like. And like is to roughly match some strings, And there's two ways that we could use a like. We're going to be having either an underscore or a percent symbol. An underscore is just used for any singular character. So let's say we have 1, 2, underscore. This underscore could be anything from A to Z, lowercase, uppercase, 1 or 0 to 9. It could be any special character, anything along the line of that. And it comes across any combination of that. Now, let's say we have 1, 2 percent sign. Now it's looking for anything that starts with 12 and any other combination outside of that. It could be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, AZ. It could be anything that starts with the letter 12. We could have 1% 2, so it's anything that starts with 1, ends with 2, and anything in between. We could have 1 underscore 2%. So it'll be anything that starts with 1, has any character in between, singular character, the number 2, and then anything after. Now, how is this useful? Let's come back to that example before of anything that starts, any name that starts with A. So we'll do select star from Olympics history where the name like, we're not using equal, like, and then we're gonna do capital A star, or not star, percent. Now, as we can see, we have all of these that just start with the letter A. Let's say we want a space. Now we just get these two. Let's say we want A, D, and I don't really know what the rest of it is. Percent. We'll get this one. Let's say we want all the information from someone that is in their 20s, where age is like, and we're gonna do 2 underscore. So all of these people are any number that starts with 2 till 9. And it could go from there. Now, we're going to be going over some more functions to help regarding math. So let's say we want any person that is... Now we'll be going over something called NULL. NULL just means an empty value. So if something was not inputted in the data, it will just be read as null. And there is something else called not null. So this is just anything that is not empty. It's because we are negating the null statement. Now, how would we use this one? In this case, in this database, we don't have a null value. So we'll test it out using the not null. So let's get the name where the age is not null. So we'll select the name from Olympics history where age is, and if we were to put null, we should get nothing. It shouldn't give us an error, but it should give us nothing. That's it. Now, if we're going to be putting this not null, we should get everything again. And as you can see, we have our entire database here because there's an input for every single value, whether that's NA or not. Now, let's work with some other functions to help filter out regarding math. So we have stuff like the less than symbol, the greater than, the less than or equal to, or the greater than or equal to. And let's say they want the name and age of all athletes that were older than 30 or younger than 30 or greater than or equal to 30, younger than equal to 30. Select name and age from Olympics history where the age is less than 30 or greater than 30. I apologize. And as we can see, we have all of our athletes that are above the age of 30. If we want less than 30, perfect. If we want less than or equal to 30, it'll look the same, but we have some 30-year-olds here. And these are some basic functions. Let's say we want ones that are in between two numbers. We could actually use something called the between. So in this case, we're just looking for a specific range. So let's say we want between 21 and 25. So we're going to change this to between 21 and 25. And as you can see, this is all of the athletes that are in between 21 and 25. And the last thing that we're going to go over today is something called the order by. Let's say our data isn't really organized properly. Like, we want it ordered by the age. Let's say we want the 21-year-olds first, then the 22, then the 23, then the 24. So we want to organize this list a little bit. We're going to be using something called the order by, and now we're just going to order it by what? Let's do it by the age. Now by default it's going to be in ascending, but we could change it to descending if we would like. First, let's try it at ascending. And as you can see, all of these are in ascending order, but let's say we want it in descending order. Order by age in descending order. Now we have the 25-year-olds first. Let's say we want to find out who the oldest person in the Olympics was. We could do it as so. Well, we have not applicable. So let's try to filter that out. Where age not NA. And as we could see here, oldest person was John Quincy Adams. He was 97 years old. And we could actually order by multiple things, not just by age. Let's say we go back to our where age is between 21 and 25, and we want to order it by age ascending, but we also want to order the names in this 21-year-olds, and we would just put comma, and then we would put name, and we could either have the names in ascending order or descending order. Let's have it in ascending order. So as you could see, we have all of these names. The only reason why this name is Tinton is because it's actually a space bar in front of this, and we could fix that in the database later on. But as you can see, most of these start with A, and let's say we want it in descending order. So they're still 21-year-olds, but it starts off with Z. And we could play around with this. The order does matter regarding order by, and that would be how you would organize the list. And these basic functions that we've been going over throughout this video help you filter out a lot of the database, and you could combine these order bys, likes, nulls, conditional statements, and so forth to make a query in order to really factor your data to find out what this person is looking for. In the next video, we'll go over some different types of queries that we could still use regarding averages, counts, and aggregate functions. But that'll be in another video. Thank you so much. Have a good one.